Okay, let's go.
So hello there, Chick Chatters. We are back with the final Love is Blind episode of the 6th season, the reunion. Actually, they did start this off with some weird intro. I've never seen an intro like this before. I really want to give them some credit because it was pretty dope, but at the same time, I was like, what's going on?
I love almost every minute of this entire reunion, starting from the beginning. I mean, it was kind of strange. I was like, what is going on too? I thought everything was so cool. I loved the set. I loved that it was actually at the pods, and it didn't seem like it was fake at the pods. It seemed like it was real at the pods.
Mhm.
So, and I loved having the old castmates. Did you know they were going to be on there? I was shocked.
I didn't, but they usually go, so I'm not surprised to see them there. It's just they were more prominent and actually
There.
talking because
Right.
I've seen them go to other reunions. I think after the
The,
second reunion, I've seen them go to
the
reunions.
live
But
reunion, there was a lot of people from the
yeah,
cast there. They were
yeah,
the only ones helping us get through the technical issues. They were live streaming, telling us what was going on. So
exactly.
thank God none of that went on. It opened up kind of cool. Everybody was in the pods, and Tiffany was fixing Brett's pants and all that. So
Including the Lachey's, though. That was how they decided to start it off. Like, we're supposed to believe that the Lachey's are dating in the pods, but that was cute. I thought that that was a good intro.
I usually get really nauseous when they're talking about each other and themselves, but I was cool with it. This was just enough.
I made a little joke to myself when Nick Lachey was like, "Oh, what are you wearing?" I don't know. She was describing what she was wearing, and he's like, "Oh, it was my favorite thing." And I'm like, "Oh, not the towel." You didn't like that towel, Nick?
Yeah.
That's not your favorite outfit?
I did like the beginning. I was happy with that. Also, they gave Trevor a countdown clock almost right away.
Yeah. That means they were on a time limit. They were setting that man up. They were like, "Listen, this is your cue." That was weird to me. No one else had a time clock.
Could you imagine Laura having a clock while she's talking?
It's so weird.
You know what? Maybe she did because they were trying to be like, girl, bye. And she had more to talk about, but we'll get there. But
Mm.
I wonder if Trevor could see his countdown clock.
I I'd hope so, but probably not. I felt like they kept that man completely in the dark. They were like, "Yeah, come to the reunion, Trevor. It's gonna be fun."
And then they just stuck him in a pod by himself. Opened up
Um,
the door to a whole audience.
they captured him or something. "Oh, we've captured this one. We couldn't get Laura. We couldn't get
He,
Andrew, but we've captured Trevor."
he did look a little captured when he came out. So Trevor had the countdown clock, and Vanessa shares with us that the couples are there from the old cast. And I didn't realize that there was 11 weddings and 9 still happening marriages. That's pretty great,
And a few
actually.
babies. 2 Love is Blind babies now, but a few extra
Mhm.
babies from other
Mhm.
cast
Even
members.
even Giannina's trying to get her baby in as a Love is Blind.
Sat right front center looking like a disco ball.
I know. Her and AD kind of matched a little bit on their skin tone with covered in glitter vibe.
Mhm.
Certainly, Sarah Ann did not miss the glitter situation, but
She was also a human disco ball. But speaking of Sarah Ann, they did start with Jeremy and
they
started getting right into him. He wore a Hawaiian shirt underneath a white suit. I was like, this is a very interesting look. But I feel like that was to slight Laura.
it was
'Cause
a very intentional look.
they only asked him a couple questions before they really got right in this reunion. Honestly, I feel like they listened to everybody's criticism for the last couple reunions and
Mhm.
they decided they're keeping their job, so they're gonna come through on these
Truly.
reunions.
This reunion for me was a 10 out of 10. I was texting Anne a plethora of messages, and she was 20 minutes behind me watching. I couldn't stop. I had to text her everything that was on my mind, at least for the first 20, 30 minutes of the whole Sarah Ann and Jeremy thing. It was very dramatic to watch, and
Mhm.
we'll get there with the drama and element with Sarah Ann, but she was giving it to me. I don't care. I was highly entertained. Do I think what she did was cool or okay? I'm not down with that. I wouldn't want to be her friend. I wouldn't want to be anywhere near that girl. And I feel very bad for Laura. Terrible for Laura. But I was entertained. And that's why they took up 25 minutes of this hour and a half reunion.
Yeah, they were on there for a minute.
They brought her out right away, and she just came out with the wrong look to me, especially because She had this different kind of vibe with the way she dressed in the pods and on the show, and it was cute, but it was plain, it was, like, not stand out. This girl came out in a hot pink dress with the Pam Anderson curls bathed in glitter from, like, Claire's.
Yeah, she had a lot of roll-on body glitter, and
It
it
wasn't
reminded
the
me
body
of
glitter that Vanessa Lachey had. She had on, like, a body shimmer. This girl, Sarah, got out the roll-on.
yeah, remember, like, when we were kids and we had the
Yes,
roll-on glitter? That's what that
yes,
looks
and
like
she
to
put
me.
it all the way down her arms and it was everywhere. It wasn't in just, like, a shimmery I'm not wow, look, I'm having a shimmer. Can you see that?
Yeah, it's just like the glare though. Yeah, she was all glittered out. She looked like a 2003 prom picture
Yeah.
to me. That's what it
Yes.
looked like. Just like a
It was
girl from
awful.
straight from 2003 prom night.
The hot pink, the, like I know that I don't know anything about fashion, but I know that the, like, kind of saggy line right there is in, but to have the bra-looking piece come out, it looked
Prom
tacky. She
dressy.
just looked tacky. She looked you know how Laura's big thing is to call everyone a clown? She truly looked like a goddamn clown. I don't even like to be mean, but the hot pink, the tacky dress, the corset, the big
Yeah,
hair, the glitter, the eyes. I'm like, "This is
yeah.
a lot."
She went overboard. I think she looks so pretty normally, and I think she just
Yes.
overdid it, and I don't know.
Yeah,
It
that's
just
the word I was trying to say. She was so natural in the pods. Her hair was
mhm.
natural, she had natural makeup. This was not the Sarah Ann that I knew.
Yeah, and her hair was just it really did look like her and Jeremy together, especially with his white suit, looked 2003, 2007 prom to me with the yeah, with the dress and stuff. I just yeah. But I don't know, I thought everybody else looked good.
They did. Everyone looked great. And I'm not saying Sarah Ann looked bad. She just missed the mark. She is not an ugly woman. She
No.
just missed the mark completely. One, for the tone of why she was coming in there. She should have known not to wear hot pink with what's going on in her life right now. So she just missed the tone. I don't know. She just seems like a natural vibe kind of girl, and that was not that at all.
Maybe she didn't miss the tone because she came in pretty hot. So they bring out Sarah and Laura from Spain, I guess,
Yeah.
on Zoom. I wonder how she felt right after, because I know sometimes after we film or something I'm in a t-shirt now, but sometimes when I dress nicer, whatever, I just hurry up and change, throw on some sweats. I wonder if she's wearing sweats underneath that top,
You always wonder. Yeah.
you know? She just has a nice top, and we all think it's a dress.
Mhm.
Maybe she's got photos,
I
but
always feel like though, like, God forbid you have to get up and you're in your Abercrombie shorts from 2008. It would not be cute.
but
So,
how
hopefully
awkward to sit in your hotel room in a full gown and makeup just to be on Zoom, and then you're done. Like, you'd have to go somewhere after that, or else what are you doing?
That's true. You're right about the gown thing. She looked like she was in a gown. So,
She probably was, but
I mean, you can't cut the bottoms of those off just because you don't wanna be
I don't know, yeah, if she was in a gown, then she should definitely have gone out or something after, because otherwise that's a waste of glam in a gown.
she needed to go out after. This whole interview was a wreck. I mean, she did what she had to do during all of it. And to be
Mhm,
honest, to me, she redeemed herself a little bit because I'm still not, but haven't been the biggest Laura fan as far as what was shown on the full season.
mhm.
So I thought she redeemed herself a little bit, probably just because Jeremy is so awful.
She redeemed herself a little bit with the bean dip thing since she was the only one that wanted to bring it up. It seems like throughout this reunion, as good as the Lachey's did at asking questions this time compared to all the other times, they missed a lot of things. They really didn't spend enough time in certain areas. Jeremy and Laura and Sarah, it took up a lot of our time, and I think that that's interesting because, to be honest, they weren't really shown until they had drama to show.
Right,
So most
right.
of the season was spent on Chelsea and Jimmy and
Mhm.
Jessica, and we talked to Jessica and Jimmy a little bit, but I still didn't get closure on so many things, and I feel completely like I have an opinion on Sarah, Jeremy, and Laura. I got it deep.
Right.
Um,
It seems like with the exception of Amy and Johnny, of course, it does seem that way that the couples who had less screen time on the actual season were focused on a lot more in the reunion and vice
Mhm.
versa. Because AD and Clay and Chelsea and Jimmy probably got 15-minute segments apiece. And well, Brittany and Kenneth, we don't really talk about them anymore.
We'll get to them. We'll get to Brittany and
For a
Kenneth
sec.
and Amy and Johnny and
Yes, yes, yes. Also, right off the jump, Jeramy gets asked about his ex-fiance. I thought
Mhm.
Nick brought it up in a really funny way. He's like, "So we're sitting here with your ex-fiance on Zoom. We got your woman you live with here, and we got this other woman online." And I'm like, "Yeah, call this man out because in the span of however much time, he has all these very serious relationships, all these women who are very committed to him, who are willing and have moved in with him."
Mhm.
To be moved in fully, even on Love Is Blind for a week or so, ready to get married and committed to 3 different women in the span of, what, 3 years?
See, that's just where I have an issue with Love Is Blind in general with the vetting system. You could still be asking Jeremy if he got on the show for clout because he rushed from relationship to relationship. It seems like we accepted Jeremy's answer, which
Mhm,
was, I had this girl before. It was semi-recent. That's why I'm selling the house. Everybody knew about this in the pods. Isn't that kind of like a red flag though? Like he's just getting out of an engagement, just selling his house. Now he's all of a
mhm.
sudden ready for a whole other engagement. Like,
Yeah, it should be a red flag.
just had to get off my chest.
Same thing with Trevor anyways. So, the whole location lie gets brought up. Vanessa also did a good job of asking those questions because Jeremy, at this point, we know is a master manipulator. He is a bold-faced liar. He
Mhm,
will not tell the truth, even when you have him pinned to it, he won't recall. So I thought Vanessa had to bring him back to the question a couple of times about the location because again, he tried to talk to us about parking lot, which I'm sure the whole internet knows that this bar doesn't have a parking lot at this point. We've all seen the Google Maps. So
mhm,
I'm so done with his whole I shared my location the second I left the house. Who cares? It makes you weirder
mhm.
and more psychotic that you get some weird feeling or some pleasure out of sharing your location with women and then still getting away with lying about where you are because I'm sure it's not the first time you did that with Laura. It sounds like you share your location with Sarah Ann now. And she said, yeah, he does it willingly. What do you mean willingly? He willingly shared his location with Laura and then went and cheated on her with you.
Yeah,
Cannot with this couple. I don't have the patience for them at all. At all.
mhm. I did like the way Vanessa asked that. Did you have an Apple Watch? Because the Apple Watch was the theory that I think everybody had was that he didn't realize he had an Apple Watch on or something and left his phone in his car. And obviously your phone is connected to your Apple Watch, so it would still show your location, your actual location. So
Which he never really answered.
no, it kind of like deviated from it. It got a little sidestep from that answer, but basically, he shares his location with Sarah Ann. I don't, like you said, I don't know if it even matters to this point. And also, we've heard a lot of stuff about Jeremy afterwards. I wish that this reunion was filmed after the most recent allegations came out. I feel like those came out like a day after the reunion was filmed, but he had some, I guess they called them pew pews, because I'm not sure if people are saying the big G word on YouTube, but
Mhm,
or
mhm,
TikTok or whatever the girl would add. One of his exes
mhm.
accuses him of assaulting her with a pew pew while they were in a domestic situation. Basically,
Threatening her with a pew pew.
yes. No, she said he pointed it at her.
I'm not a lawyer. When I
Yeah.
think of assault, I would think of like a
Oh
fire
yeah, he
pew
didn't like
pew
pistol whip her or
or a
anything.
pistol whip.
He didn't get a P whip or nothing. I don't mean assault like that, I guess. She got threatened with one. I mean, that's scary as hell. I mean, I feel like that is.
Terrifying. I'm not minimizing it. Very
She
terrifying.
yeah, and, you could look her up, I guess, on TikTok. I don't know the exact info. I just know those are the rumors out there. But
I watched her whole 4-part TikTok.
I did too. And then I watched his
Riveting.
response.
Which is why I'm unfazed by his response here because it's almost exactly the same stone cold lie face. I'm sorry. She maybe, and I doubt it, I don't know why she ever would. Maybe she embellished a thing or two, but she did not make any of this up out of her head. People just don't do that.
I just wish Nick Lachey had a chance to ask him about it because the Lacheys really came for everybody. I'm not gonna lie, when it came to the tough questions, we just didn't get to get some other information that I did kinda want.
Just like the regular softball reunion questions, what's going on with you now, things like that. They started to get into that a little bit with AD and Clay.
Yeah.
How long until you guys reached out? I also loved when Laura started calling Jeramy a clown because he is a whole clown and a lot of other descriptive words. Sarah Ann thinks that she wants to pipe up and talk about, oh, you better watch your mouth talking about calling somebody a clown because you called me this, and a pick me, and you're the pick me. I was like,
And
do you know how you sound right now, girl? And you're the one who sent the message. Wrote pick me in the message.
yes, and they showed this conversation that Laura and Sarah Ann had at the, I don't know, luau lake house that Clay owns or whatever. So,
Yeah.
they had a whole conversation that they didn't put in the episode, which I guess cool, save these things for the reunion, but, like, it seemed like they had a couple clips like this, and I'm like, "You guys really could have put it in the show there. This would have been more interesting than half of the stuff that you did show me in the show." I don't know
I know.
why. I have to watch this at the reunion when the reunion is strictly for asking the damn questions. And if somebody wants receipts, then you show the receipts, like Jessica
Right.
later on. But yeah,
Right.
so they show us a whole conversation unprovoked about Laura and Sarah Ann. And Sarah Ann was singing a whole different tune when she was talking to Laura one on one, apologizing. In fact, her reasoning for doing what she did, I almost was like semi okay with because nobody owes each other anything in this show. Her
Right.
going back and sending Jeremy a message, she don't know Laura, she's not friends with Laura. These people just met each other. I get it's like an intensive experiment. They're together for 9 days, but not everybody's gonna come out of this as friends, and if she wants to shoot her shot, she should, I mean, not that she should when he is engaged, but I understand that in this process, they're gonna have that closure moment, and, I mean, honestly, that could have happened at this whole shindig that they're at, so I
Right.
don't agree with the way that they went about it at all. I'm just saying that when it comes to the actual message, I ain't really that mad at the message. I'm more mad at how Jeremy handled everything after and how everything else played out after. I don't agree with, but people don't owe you anything if they're not friends with you.
My
That's
whole thing with the message though is I feel like Sarah Ann could have let their relationship play out because
yeah.
he did make his choice. But I agree. I mean, Sarah Ann is her own person. She's allowed to advocate for herself however she sees fit. That did not look good, but she got what she wanted out of it. And ultimately, Laura and Jeremy weren't supposed to be together anyways, if this is how it
Yeah.
happened. But I'm not a fan of letting other women provide the opportunity to show me that my man shouldn't be my man. No, that's gross. And Sarah Ann will never be a girl's girl. She wanted to accuse everybody else on the cast about you guys are this and you guys are that, and you're not a girl's girl. The only reason you have that word in your mouth is because everybody else is telling you that. Nobody walks around with some girl's girl-o-meter. That's not a thing. We can see that you're slimy and you're manipulative and you're out
Mhm.
here for everybody else's man, and it's trash, and I don't like it.
She's the Ariana Grande of the Love Is Blind world, that's for sure. I don't agree with her sending the message at all. I think that she should have waited until that first meeting like Jessica and Jimmy did and everybody else did. I just feel like that was the most appropriate thing to do. And then, yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, afterwards, if you want to be messy for our entertainment, I don't care. But you have to know why everybody's mad at you.
Mhm.
Like you have to understand.
Well, and that's really Laura's whole point with this whole situation was just a couple hours before they had just filmed that scene with Laura's whole entire family.
Mhm.
So Laura's perspective is we just had this day. You just met my family. Everybody's tickets are booked to come up here to our wedding. We're telling each other that we're going to get married. And then you go out one night with your friends, which I'm sure he's done before while they were
Mhm.
together. Seems like the cast gets together a lot after hours sort of thing. And then all of a sudden you're gone until 5 o'clock in the morning telling Sarah Ann that you're gonna end the relationship with me.
Mhm.
At minimum, that's what happened. And I think a lot more happened. But Sarah Ann told AD at the little lake house thing, he told me he's gonna end things because
Mhm.
I told him nothing can happen between us until you figure your stuff out. I think that's the
Mhm.
closest thing that happened to the truth, I think what she said there,
Mhm.
except they very well could have
But to be
done
honest, I think Sarah Ann did Laura a favor because if your man could be taken from you like that, then he ain't yours.
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna pull Clay's dad right now.
Yep.
If
It's
your
so
man could be
true.
taken from you, he ain't yours.
Mm.
And yes, Sarah Ann is a problem, but Jeremy is the bigger problem in this whole
Yeah.
thing. And with all the allegations and things against him, all the weird rumors, you don't want that man. No one wants that man. Let Sarah Ann and her glitter have that man. They can have their house together. They can break up as many times as they want. They can get back together as many times as they want. She did everybody a favor.
I
Jeremy was a
know.
clown from the beginning.
While we're talking about his ex-fiancée and the allegations that came out, you and I have watched the TikTok. It sounds like almost exactly the same story. Sarah Ann and Jeremy have just solved their problems currently by trying to move in together. And that's exactly what happened with his ex-fiancée. She said it wasn't exactly like they were arguing. There was other things that made them have to move in together, but they were not getting along and they were trying to figure out, do we break up or not? And then they decided to
Mhm.
move in together, and then all the stuff happened. It almost sounds step by step what happened to his ex-fiancée. So I do wish Sarah Ann safety and peace
Yeah.
and a good support system because it looks like she's gonna need it.
And although Jeremy says he's gonna sue this girl, we're just gonna keep our eye out. We'll see because
He will not.
he
That's
can't.
a classic intimidation tactic, but he can't sue her because it's probably mostly factual.
Yeah, he doesn't deny having the weapons and stuff. He just says that they were heirlooms and this and that, which I'm sure that's fine. I mean, I know Dean's got an heirloom, pew pew, and things like that, but you just store those differently. Like you can just store everything in one thing. You don't have to have them hidden all over your house unless they're
So
in
weird.
lock boxes all over your house. But as
Didn't
long
sound
as
like
I
it from
doubt
her
they're
story.
locked up. They don't sound locked up. They sound like you can just reach under something and grab it. It is
Another thing from this segment that I think is worth talking about is how in Laura and Sarah Ann conversation, we see that Jeremy is talking about Jimmy and calls
Mhm.
Jimmy the villain because he's so worried about his reputation now after what went down with Laura and Sarah Ann. And Jimmy was mad.
Well, because it was coming out of Laura's mouth after Jimmy already had his own experience. I don't blame Jimmy, and that explains to me why Jimmy always kind of seems a little bit low key annoyed of him is because Jeremy's trying to make him out to be the villain and not Jeremy. But Jeremy, I mean, there's a few villains this season, so
There's a couple, and none of them are terrible to me.
I think Jeremy's done the worst things on the show with the Sarah Ann and the 5 a.m. situation. Kenneth did do a bit of gaslighting, in my opinion, with his eating and talking and whatever.
I got thoughts on that when we get there too. Okay. So yeah, it seems like there was some villainry happening here and there. Enough villain vibes to spread around, definitely. But
Mhm,
Jeremy tries to just do that same bold-faced lie to Jimmy in this whole situation. Jimmy seems like he has a pretty specific memory of what was said to him.
mhm.
And dude still is just, I don't recall, but I'll apologize for it. No, we just watched you tell Laura that you're not going to apologize for things that didn't happen. So why don't you just say I'm sorry? Not this whole I don't recall bullshit. It's just so manipulative. It's awful.
I'm sure he said it.
I'm positive he said it. And Jimmy's positive he said it. And just to introduce the question if he said it or not by saying I don't recall, it's manipulative, it's instigative, it dismisses whatever Jimmy is trying to say to him.
And even if he said it as a joke, I still think he said it. Could have been saying it as a bad joke, but so Jimmy is upset with him. But after his little half-assed apology, Jimmy just lets us know that honestly, Jeremy's least of his concerns right now. He's thinking we're about to slam into him for everything else that happened this season because this was really Jimmy's season.
I know Jimmy was so prepared to have a reunion about him. Little did he know we would barely be speaking with him.
Barely, little here and there, but not
Like
enough.
a shocking amount of nothing from
Eh,
him. So, and it's
crazy.
not even his fault. We just didn't get there. So, I think we've covered most of the important parts of this whole love triangle
Mhm.
saga here. We did learn that Laura is dating. Laura did eventually get kind of a straight up apology from Jeramy and Sarah Ann, but after
After
a
a
lot
lot
of
of coaxing.
tons. At that point, I wouldn't call it an apology. I would just call it an end of a conversation.
And that's what AD is pretty much like. She's like, "Sorry for what? You did what you did. So what does it
Mhm.
matter?"
So then the countdown clock is over and Trevor appears and he's looking strange to me. I don't know if he's just such a big man, his clothes don't fit right, but get a tailor or something, especially for the Love is Blind reunion. You're walking in looking like you're going to the office on a Wednesday in a cubicle. It's not good.
Or, like, about to change my oil or something. I feel like they wear those kind of
Yeah,
polos.
this like bright teal shirt with the khakis. Like, are you golfing? Are you? I don't know. I'm not about it. And they were all bunched up because he's too big for his. I
I'm telling you, he was captured. He was captured. He wasn't even planning on going to that reunion. They captured him. He looked shook the entire way. They're like, "We'll
Yeah.
pay you." I
So
think
Trevor comes out. Receipts
uh-huh,
were read by Nick and Vanessa dramatically. They used their
out the
acting
gate.
skills for that one. Nick reading as Trevor, Vanessa reading as Pumpkin, like, just all of it was bad. Even Jimmy got in on it. He called Trevor Pumpkin when he was
Yeah.
invited to go. It was quite the occurrence, but
Lachey's practiced that at home for a while.
they did. They did. They put their acting skills to the true test. They have rehearsed this, they have read this, they were ready for it. So ready for it, in fact, that Trevor is stunned, visibly
Yeah.
stunned.
Minutes he sat in silence, and honestly, I did kind of feel a little bit bad just because I hate being put on the spot like that, and I know that he did something really messed up, right? And they didn't even ask him about the
Bad part.
sending the real bad parts. They kinda
Yeah.
did, even though they came right at him, they still did take it a little bit easy on him. I don't love his excuse of, "Well, I was seeing her, but I also wanted to test the waters elsewhere." If you are not content in where you are, that you need to look elsewhere, then that person's not the person for you either. So,
Yeah, you
I
don't
don't
come
I don't
out of
get where
it
he
saying, "Let's get married." I'm sorry, but I'm giving Trevor the AD one of these. No, sir.
Love is Blind is an experiment, but you're not doing an experiment on an experiment here. This isn't like a I'm gonna compare and contrast these 2 women, this girl with
Mhm.
this girl that I don't know. I don't know for sure if it is for clout. I would assume that some of it is, but at the same time, Trevor really doesn't post anything. He doesn't have anything on his social media, so I don't really know what he did this for, to be honest with you, other than maybe he's just a little bit I don't
I wonder if he wanted to put his ex-girlfriend through some weird psychological stuff. I believe him when he says he's toxic because he really had America fooled. Just like Vanessa said, everyone wanted to protect Trevor. And now we see who he really is, and he doesn't even have anything to explain for himself, which means it's either really bad or he doesn't even know why he's doing what he's doing. He says he's toxic and he knows he needs therapy. Then go to therapy because this happened a year ago. So I don't know why you're sitting on the Love is Blind reunion all frozen up, traumatized from your own behaviors.
yeah,
That's the part that I can't feel bad for him for. I feel bad for him that he was clearly shocked in that moment and he was overwhelmed and could not
yeah,
manage the moment. And that any human should feel bad for a human seeing them in that state. But he's certainly getting what he reaped back to
yeah.
him. And he should have expected that. He should have been in therapy. He should have prepared for that moment like Clay prepared for his moment.
Right, I was just gonna say Clay went to therapy and he's been doing and you can kinda tell when he talked, so
Totally.
yeah, with Trevor, he was probably shook, but I do think he knew the question in advance because he said, "I had a whole thing prepared to say, and now I just can't." I just think he thought he was gonna get a few softballs, 1 or 2 softballs, but Nick Lachey came to play.
He went
So
in on him, and I mean, so much so afterwards, like, Cass went in on him a little bit, and Trevor had some things to say to Chelsea, and I thought what he said was fair about if you
mhm,
need whatever, I'll explain whatever you need to you off camera. But I also feel like you did all of this stuff to her on camera, and I'm sure you don't wanna air out everyone's dirty laundry now, but you should be able to explain something more than,
mhm,
"I don't know, I had something planned, but now I'm freaking out." Because he
yeah,
really gave us nothing. He said he was with a girl he quote unquote "didn't love," but said he was gonna marry her and that they were toxic. None of that makes any sense, and nor have you seemed to have done anything about it. And then Chelsea over here with all her insecurities. Imagine if she I mean,
Well, and on top of that, this girl seemed to know he was going to the show. He must have worked out something with her, because otherwise I couldn't be seeing a guy and then him being like, "I'm not 100% sure about you. I'm gonna go on Love Is Blind." There must have been some other type of conversation for her to be so cool with it.
in the
So
fact that Trevor made Chelsea feel bad, not once, but twice, about, "Didn't you wanna pick somebody who was all in on you?" You had a whole lady! A whole lady!
a
That's
whole
not
lady.
all in on Chelsea at
Yeah,
all.
even if you wanna frame it as you were all in on her in the experiment, then that's just loopholes you're trying to run through. That's just trying to run through loopholes. That's
He said, "I had to act like this wasn't real life," and so I can't even believe that, if he were to argue that.
I will give him
I
credit for showing up, at least saying something. He didn't have to show up, and I don't know, I really kinda still think he was captured, but he didn't have to show up. I know he must have known he was gonna get read for filth on here, so he really didn't have to do this. Matthew didn't do it. They didn't give us Amber anything either. Laura wasn't physically there.
I wish they would have had Laura more so, like, there the whole
Still up
time on
there.
Zoom. Yeah, I've seen other reunion shows where people zoom in and they have full not their whole body, but they just have a bigger screen where you can see them kind of almost interact more. Go ahead.
AD kinda helped her a little bit. She told Trevor to say it with his chest when he
Mm.
sat there for minutes and minutes, and that got me back to laughing because I was feeling the secondhand embarrassment, for real. I have this
Absolutely.
empathy complex, and
Yeah.
even through a screen, I can be cringing for somebody. Sometimes it's just too much for me, and if he woulda lasted another 3 minutes, I probably woulda had to turn the TV off and take an intermission because I was feeling the secondhand embarrassment.
It was a lot. I mean, so much so that Trevor started asking if he could leave. That's when I got a little bit like, is he okay? But he's okay. He had this weird side smile going on. I know some people laugh when they're embarrassed and stuff. I do that too, but
Yeah.
I just can't get over this with Trevor. I think Trevor is manipulative. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but he has done enough for me to formulate that opinion, I think. But he even said himself he came on for good and bad reasons. He didn't reveal what those reasons were. I can't even really tell what they are at this point. Like you said, he's not trying to be an influencer, at least that to what we know now. Maybe he'll have a slow burn, sort of like Shake did.
Mhm.
Shake just got onto like the villains show and he's starting to get a little bit more popular after he had a lot of bad press on Love is Blind. So maybe he's sort of waiting for his moment, such as Sarah Ann and Shake
Yeah.
and the other villains.
Did you see Jess's face though during that awkward silence? She was my face.
Mhm.
Yeah. That whole Trevor thing, it was a hot mess. We got to be able to attack him, but we really didn't get that much out of him. He did say that he was upset still with the whole Chelsea thing. I don't know. With Netflix saying they got all these therapists and stuff, I don't know why these people don't have the therapists, you know?
Yeah.
So, Netflix,
Yeah.
don't be giving me these things at the bottom of the screen if that's not even true. If I got people still coming on here like, "Need a therapist." Help them.
I'm toxic, I need therapy. It's Clay too. He's all like, I never took therapy. I know I gotta get therapy. Then start now. Talk to a therapist. Maybe he could have not made the mistake he made, which we're just about to walk into. But just before that, I do think it's important to note that Nick Lachey really did kind of call out everybody that we've just talked about and said basically that all of you are doing it wrong, that you shouldn't have came here, that you only came here for clout and for fame. But yet we're spending all this screen time on them
On
and
them.
giving
Yep.
them all this attention. However, I'm thoroughly entertained and I'm thoroughly here for it and I'm not mad at it. I just hope that they
Right.
can keep a balance in casting of these people and people who are here for love because I
Yeah.
can't watch this turn into a perfect match type of show.
Well, and this
That's
is
a
where
huge.
I get what Nicholas Shea is saying, but at the same time, it's also Netflix's fault. It's also your casting people's fault. I know Chelsea just got this damn job, but it's also gonna Chelsea from season
Yeah.
4.
What
She got a job being a casting person or whatever they announced that here. They acted like all these announcements were big announcements. I thought they were gonna announce a pregnancy. They didn't
I
announce
know.
nothing.
We got Colleen and Matt moved in together, and Chelsea's gonna be on casting now.
And there's a couple people
Woo.
going to Perfect Match, which we already knew. So it's like, okay,
Yeah.
whatever.
And I also heard that Matthew might be on that,
I hope so. I doubt
and
it.
Trevor.
I don't know.
I feel
Probably
like Netflix just is mad at them right now, so they're not advertising them, but I heard that they were on it.
I wouldn't be surprised, but I would be more surprised if Andrew was on than Matthew. Andrew, I keep getting his name wrong. First he's Mark, and then he's Andrew, and I don't know. Trevor. Is it Trevor that's on there, you said?
Trevor has a mullet. Andrew is Clark Kent.
I don't know if those people will be on there. I'd be surprised to see them ever on TV again after them getting read for filth on the internet and on here. But even though I get what Nick Lachey is saying, it is still Netflix's fault. You need to go back in these people's relationship histories and see when their last relationships ended. I think that's their biggest problem. They say they go through this rigorous process, but then there's all these lawsuits and these people in some pretty bad situations on other seasons. I haven't heard anything yet this season. I guess we'll see. But they're showing us food, and they showed us food in this reunion. They were sitting in front of a freaking cake table and stuff.
So since we're on the topic of this too, you have been a waitress, a server, been in the food industry, restaurant industry just as long, probably longer than I had been. Were you not thinking the first thing, how long has this food been out and are they going to eat it?
Yes.
There's meats and stuff. They just sat there edited for an hour and 40 something minutes. So if that food's been out for 2.5 hours and it's not on ice, they're all gonna get sick. All I could think of watching them eat that food. At least all the other food on the main season looked like it was hot food and stuff, just in a buffet, but this was just a table charcuterie situation,
I
and
totally don't remember them ever going and eating food after a reunion. Do you? Really?
no, then they had this whole plethora, like, they were kings and queens. Maybe they brought it out too at some point. I know that there's editing and stuff, but that's all I could think of was who brought this food out when?
Yeah, it tripped me out at the end where they all go up to the buffet of food. I'm like, Netflix, what agenda are you trying to push with
And
me right now?
AD was passing them out to people. I'm like,
Shots,
"Did
yeah.
they tell you to do that? Was that the final little cut that you got on your check, was to be the waitress here and pass out the little croissants?"
I think that was one of the most infuriating parts of the whole reunion was seeing that table of food, to be honest with you, because literally I went through all these episodes where almost every single one had a buffet. I understand you're feeding these people, and now they're not even in your care, and you're still making sure to tell us that you're feeding them. They can go
I
get an
know.
In-N-Out after and stuff. They don't need this.
Oh,
I'm
no, not
confused.
on Netflix. That's why we're paying more so we can feed all these cast members now of all these
Yeah,
reality shows, but
they're why I have ads now.
uh-huh.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, we finally move on to the main actual cast here, the people that we watched get closer to a wedding. Clay and AD is what we come up on first, and they do, like I said, ask a little bit of the regular questions that they ask. Vanessa asked how long until they reached out to each other. AD says that it was a lot of weeks, and Clay said that a lot of messages went unanswered before she finally answered him. Still
And
don't know if they're dating though.
I don't think so. It sounds like he's tried to hit her up after that, but it seems like AD's stuck to her guns. I'm sure that they've probably met up a few times, maybe have tried dating a little bit, but Clay came to this reunion to win her back. I felt like I was watching a romance movie when he
My
talked about
heart was open.
yeah.
Okay. I was ready to walk into life with Clay. I know exactly what AD means now about the whole follow this man off a cliff or whatever she said. What he was saying then, that was it. He was starting to become fully potential. He didn't
Mhm.
have the moment with his dad, he revealed, but you can't make people do things that are out of your control. He said it the way he said it, and I understand who he is as a man, and that's all Clay really needs. So I think Clay's really done the work. I think you're right. He did come back to that reunion to try to get AD back. And Nick and Vanessa asked both of them, would you ever date each other? So I guess we know they're not currently dating now, although it just seemed like they were pretty friendly.
I think when he said that, it shook her. And I'm pretty sure that they've been in each other's DMs probably since this reunion. I don't think
I
that
think
they're
more than that.
yeah, I feel like we're gonna be seeing them back together. I wouldn't be surprised at least, but I don't know. AD might try to play tough for a little while, but I think I kind of hope, if Clay really has done the work, and I didn't see a huge problem with Clay other than him carrying around his traumas and this cheating issues. So if
Right.
he's really over that truly and he's totally ready to be with her, I don't see why dating wouldn't be an option. I mean, maybe don't get married, but dating is an option.
I think the issue here, and it kind of comes up to when they start asking about the scene with Clay's parents, and really they don't ask Clay too much about the scene with
Mhm.
Clay's parents. They really ask AD about the scene with Clay's parents.
Mhm.
And ultimately, she says that it closes a lot of gaps and that respectfully, she does not want to be Clay's mom. And I think that Clay saved her from that cycle by
Mhm.
not marrying her. I also think that it's not fair that AD had to go through all this suffering in order for this cycle to be spoken on in their family and to be
Mhm.
healed. People should have been a little more self aware than that, because the problem I think with AD and Clay dating for AD is she's heartbroken. Those were her real feelings when she said yes and he said no. And that's a lot to get over. She is lacking trust now. She
Mhm.
feels hurt, and that's going to be a lot for him to overcome. But it sounds like Clay is very motivated and he thinks what happened was a mistake. I think that that's wildly crazy too.
I've
That
never heard anybody say that before that I should have said
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
I will say that I have heard rumors that Clay made it known before that he wasn't going to marry
Mhm,
AD, that he just did not have that in him, but they had to
mhm,
make it to the altar because Kenneth dropped out and
mhm,
they needed some representation, let's say, at
mhm.
the altar when it comes to
Well, I
minorities
think
and but
more of these couples should be going to the altar. I think Jimmy and Chelsea should have went to the altar too. I'm really honestly upset that we didn't see the whole day. I get that it's an emotional thing, but it is the thing that you sign up for,
Mhm,
especially when you find somebody that you want to get engaged to. You can't
mhm.
just get engaged, take somebody else's spot that probably also got engaged this season, go on a vacation, and the day before, 2 days before
Yeah,
weddings, say, I'm not going to do this. I can't do this. The show is for you to say that up there, and I know that
yeah,
that's embarrassing, but you knew this is season 6 and you're
yeah.
not Clay. So, you
Um
knew what you signed up for.
Unless it's bad. Who was it? Taylor last season
Mhm.
and JT, or I think that was his name, and then this
Right.
season with Kenneth and Brittany, honestly, it wasn't really that great between them. So unless it's really, really, really bad, if they bought the wedding dress, I think you should make it to the altar if they get
They
to the
bought the
wedding
dress and they made a goddamn ice sculpture together.
just that day. I wonder where
Just
that went.
it just probably melted away like Chelsea's soul. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did see a little hint of jealousy in Clay when they brought up Andrew and asked AD if she's ever met up with him. And apparently she
Mhm.
has. She met up with him on 2 dates. She said it was like, nah.
That
They
made me so sad for her. I'm like, "Why are you doing this to yourself? This man played you. He played you." They are showing in a comedic way on television with these receipts how much he played you. Matthew played that girl, and she goes over and has a date with him, and she goes to his house. I would not second date be going to someone's house unless I'm planning to do things.
not someone who was planning to kidnap me from Love is Blind, and he was trying to ask everybody to leave with him. And then
I
what
know.
happened to Amber? Do we not get to know what happened to Amber? Because all of a sudden we're talking about Andrew. Why don't we talk about what happened to Amber? Is she okay? Is she
I was
alive?
just thinking that. We haven't even seen her on social media, have we?
I haven't looked, but you know what? Now I'm gonna have to.
I'm
I know
scared for her.
she left, he went after her. That's all we knew. We never heard anything about Amber again. They threw up this old clip to prove a point that AD already knew. AD already knew he had said the same things.
Mhm.
Netflix should have showed us these clips during the season. I don't like this. You didn't need to save that for the reunion. I was so upset those first couple episodes when I did not see the clips. Where is these clips of Amber? They're gonna show her in the pods like lounge cafeteria area, but they're not gonna show me her dates, and even though she is a part of a love square. All of the things that they spent time on, and I'm like, put in an
Yeah,
extra episode if you have to. I'll watch it.
right. I will. I will too. I hear you. But the
All right.
last thing we get in Clay and AD segment really is they asked him who he was trying to emulate when he finally did see the Love is Blind seasons. And he reveals that the 4th season was the one that they watched and that he was looking at Brett. And I mean, obviously, right? Brett is probably the most fully potential husband that we've came across, so we all love Brett.
I think that was a really nice moment between them. When it comes to them showing the other couples, I think that I liked that scene the most of all of it.
Mhm,
I think that that was
mhm,
beautiful, but I do think that they spent way too much time on the other couples that we've already seen, we've already had reunions with to check in on them, and that was driving me up a wall because then we didn't really get to Kenneth and Brittany, then we barely got to know anything about Jimmy, Chelsea, Jessica, the whole thing. They didn't even ask them, "Are you guys all friends? How does this all work between the 3 of you?" Because they even be posting photos together now. So I'm like, "What?"
mhm.
That's so many questions, and none of them got answered after pretty much AD and Clay because they were running out of time, I'm sure.
Well, they had plenty of time. I mean, they went over an hour and a half, and they didn't do a lot with the extra couples. I don't know. I'm kind of happy that they were there, and this was one of the longest moments. But I hear you. I mean, there was definitely some big missed gaps. Not even
Yeah.
questions or two. Whole entire gaps of information. We just
Make it
didn't
a
get enough.
2-hour reunion. Hour and 37 minutes is so weird. Just make it a
Make it a
two-hour reunion.
two-parter, a 2 hour, a whatever. We're all here for it. We're gonna cast about it, film about it, talk about it.
Just do it.
What's the problem?
Even if they wanted to leave all those other couples, I'm fine with that if they just want to make it
I
longer.
loved to see them. That was one of my favorite parts about this new reunion format was to
Mhm.
have the interaction of the old and the new cast because I think when there's more marriages too in future seasons, if they also have a lot of the married people come back, I think that that's great advice and conversation that they can have,
Mhm.
like we saw with Brett and AD and Clay, even though AD and Clay didn't get married.
That was a nice moment. Then they go over to Johnny and Amy. And honestly, they did hit Johnny and Amy earlier, but it was just a montage of where they're at now. To be honest,
Mhm.
I think we've all been skipping over Johnny and Amy, although it's for a good reason. They're just so well adjusted together. They're perfect together.
They
We're
are. They
all
still
happy for
haven't
them.
fought.
That's really all we know about them now, other than their
That's all
families
I
still
wrote.
get along. They talked about birth control a little bit. They still aren't on it, but I don't know what they're doing. That must be the pull out and pray method because
It's gotta be something. So, this happened, like, a little bit later in it, but Giannina asked a viewer question or something to them about the birth control, and I had the same questions because I need to know what they're doing because they say they figured it out. She said, "I've still never been on birth control. He never got a vasectomy." I know there's other options. We all know that there's a lot of other options there,
Mhm.
but I just wonder what they figured out. I mean, tell the world. We just spent the whole season listening to you guys trying to figure it
Yeah.
out. You're over here telling us you've done research and brought things to each other and solutions. What is the solution? What is it? Just
Watch
tell
it be
me. Let's just
condoms.
close the chapter.
Watch it be condoms or pull out method, and that's probably why they're not even gonna say it. Is because it's be like, really, we spent a whole season on you guys for that because
Mhm.
all that they focused on them for a couple
I think
dances, couple outside picnics, and some birth control.
Mhm. Johnny acknowledged that condoms were always an option, so I wonder if that's just not something maybe that they wanted to use. I'm sure that they are doing the pull and pray method, or even more scientifically, you can track your ovulation and do the pull and pray method, so you can make adjustments during certain times of the month to make sure that you're extra careful. There's really only a limited window of space that a woman can get pregnant a month anyways. I think maybe they're learning more about those things. I just wish that they would talk about it because what we're talking about right now, you and I, is lengthier than they spent on Johnny
Yeah,
and Amy altogether.
yeah. So we're gonna move on.
Alexa did ask Chelsea about the conversation between Laura and Jessica, and I thought that that was a good thing to bring up. It seems like at this point, the rest of the reunion comes through this format of questions from the past cast slash social media, but they don't, for example, really give Chelsea and Jimmy a segment or give Ken and Brittany a segment. They ask them a question and then they sort of
Yeah,
explain that's pretty much all.
I guess Jessica and Chelsea are on good terms, and Jessica just felt bad about the whole thing. I think she was a little bit drunk. I think she was still not over Jimmy, and she was giving it for TV. I do think that that's part of it too. You're on TV, you might as well make your mark, especially if you're gonna try to get that perfect match slot.
Jeremy and Sarah need to take a lesson in accountability here. Say that you're sorry, say that you made a
Mhm.
mistake, move on, tell them. I like that she said, you know what, this was not my best thing, and I don't expect Chelsea to give me grace in this area.
Mhm.
That's and then they can move on. Obviously, they're friends. It's not like it's that deep, but you have to apologize for what
Yeah.
you've done. It's not that hard.
They were sitting there the whole time. They really could have took notes. And Micah just can't wait to get involved. I thought that was funny. She was all, "Oh, yes, finally."
She was so cute. I miss her a little bit. I know she was got the mean girl thing going on, but I think now that our emotions have all gone down, I hope that she's fun to watch in Perfect Match because she does
Mhm.
have kind of a fun personality. I think she's kind of a pick-me girl, if anything, her and Sarah Ann, but not mine to judge.
She did come out swinging, though. She did ask Jimmy about the little secret Barbara and how he really felt about Chelsea airing that out there on TV. And he wasn't happy with that. I think he's still a little bit annoyed with that. He says that this girl is mad at him. She did not have to show up on TV. You do take a risk when you show up on
Mhm.
TV. He's on a show called Love is Blind. They're in a relationship. If you know that he's mentioned it to her, it's very possible that it could air out. And it's not even the worst thing. I don't see why anybody would be so upset with her or bring up or another man would care that she hooked up with
Mhm.
Jimmy. Because I don't know, I just feel like we've talked about this in a previous episode. They're not going to be friends forever and ever and ever.
Right.
Like, I really don't
Right.
think that. And if they are, then that's great. But I just don't think it's going to be that deep. I don't think it's that deep, Jan. I still don't think it's that deep. And
I agree.
I get that she didn't deserve to have her stuff aired out, but I don't think the world cares that much. There's so much stuff this season that we can focus on. We don't really care that much about Babra. Okay, I don't know. Maybe some people
Well,
do. I don't know if y'all do, chick chatters, but I don't. I have
I
so many
don't
other
think
things.
anyone does. Jimmy allowed it to be basically the whole reason why they're not together anymore. I understand that Jimmy told Chelsea this in confidence and because he was really planning to get married and she needs to know that stuff. That's all facts. But first of all, before we keep going, Nick asked for a show of hands. If people think it's appropriate to say something on camera that was told to you in confidence, who's gonna raise their hand either way? What are we doing here?
Yeah,
All of a
that was
sudden, I
weird.
feel like we got the old Nick back for a minute.
Yeah.
Nobody did anything. He had to start calling people out, but obviously this is inappropriate. It's so obvious. And guess who comes up to back up Chelsea for a minute is Micah. And she's like, "Well, she was probably really stressed out." And I agree. She was
Yeah.
probably really stressed out. And Chelsea said that she forgot that the cameras were even
That's
there. It probably
honestly what I
happens.
thought. Even when it was happening, sometimes you're just so caught up in a fight in a moment, you don't care what the hell's there. Half these people were bringing up their arguments in front of their parents on the first
Mhm,
meeting. Sometimes
mhm.
you just act, and I don't think she maliciously brought it up to shame this girl. I think she was upset with Jimmy, and she brought it up to be
Yeah.
upset with Jimmy about. I don't think it was to put a target on this girl's back or anything like that. I don't think that that was Chelsea's intent. I think she just was recklessly talking and drunk and having an
Mhm.
argument, and he could have at any point been like, "We're not gonna talk about that," and just left. But he let her
Yeah.
yell at him for a while about it. I think
Yeah.
Jimmy making it a big deal is what made it a deal, because I don't think anybody would have really cared with all the rest of the drama going on this season and all the stuff that we've heard after the season between Trevor and Jeremy. There's just too much to keep up with. This Barbara thing was just a drop in the bucket. It really was. It wasn't that big, Jan.
I agree. And I mean, that's pretty much where we leave things with Chelsea and Jimmy.
Now, I will say if this would have happened last season, it would have been the whole entire season because last season gave us absolutely nothing. Other than Uche, absolutely nothing.
Jimmy and Chelsea agree that it was that moment that ruined everything. They kind of tried to give it a go a little bit afterwards, but didn't really work out. Like we just talked about earlier, I wish that they would have just gone to the altar with this. They were basically already there.
I don't know if they're kinda dating now or if they're just really good friends, like, Jimmy just has a host of girlfriends that he's dated or been engaged to or whatever, because I do see videos and photos of them out together as of recently, a lot.
I have
I
a
don't know.
hypothesis about this. Despite us making this podcast, I'm not super into all the Instagrams and the TikToks and stuff of all the cast, so I really don't know. But I feel like there's a possibility that maybe there was some rekindling that was done between Jimmy and Chelsea during the reunion. Because it seems like a lot of the pictures coming out have been really since the reunion and afterwards. I wonder if they went somewhere maybe after or had a couple of days.
I don't
on a
know because
couple of dates.
if that's the case, it didn't come from the actual reunion. They must have talked before or after because we didn't get them saying anything really to each other about their relationship that much other than this fight at the reunion.
No,
It was
yeah,
more I almost thought he was gonna try to get with Jessica after the reunion because they had a
yeah,
better conversation. They really did.
they did, they did. And maybe there's some stuff that got edited out and they talked about it, but I don't think anything that we saw or anything that happened on the actual reunion rekindled things, but I wonder if just seeing each other in person and talking, and they said that they've been supporting each other through all of this stuff, so maybe that is something that is going on with them, or maybe they're just friends and they're hanging out and trying to have fun together. I have no idea. We do see Jessica and
Yeah.
Jimmy talk about their love triangle, and Chelsea was
Mhm.
visibly uncomfy.
Very uncomfy. The most uncomfy. You could see it all over her face, especially when Jimmy and Jessica were having their like, come to Jesus moments where they were starting to align, where Jimmy called her very beautiful, like uncomfy. Because all we really seen him say about Chelsea was that she's got pretty eyes. I'm sorry. Not saying that she's not. And the whole Megan Fox thing got brought up again. She's just kind of made a joke out of it, pretty light. I mean, I'm not going to get into the whole Megan Fox thing. We went extensively into the Megan Fox thing. We all know she set herself up for a disservice. So Jessica and Jimmy are talking about how Jimmy was in interviews talking about Jessica. So she thought they were cool until then. Like this was such a interesting reunion. Everything was getting brought up. Everything recent too cuz those interviews were pretty recent. They were right after I think the second drop of episodes or something like that. He said she walked out of a date in 10 minutes. She said it was an hour and a half. She asked for the receipts and I know they didn't show them there at the reunion. They showed it to us, I think. But she did make a post where she reacted to them showing the receipts. She was just doing a cartwheel. Like, okay.
It was even longer than what she said. It was over
Yes,
2 hours total,
it was. It
Jimmy.
was it was almost 3 hours. It was like 2 hours and 15 minutes, or maybe it was 2 hours and 50 minutes. I just remember there was a five in there. And I was like, Jimmy, that is not 10 minutes. Come on. And if that's the date, I don't know if he's talking about that date or the date that she told him he was gonna choke. But I'm pretty sure if that's the date that Jessica's talking about that they showed Jimmy,
It very well could have been that "you're gonna choke" date.
choke.
I believe that that was probably a 10-minute date. It sounded like Jimmy had made up his mind after the date with Chelsea, which
Mhm,
happened the night before, after the date with Jessica that went poorly with the
mhm.
letter. I know Jimmy went through it. I actually feel for him. I don't think he's really a villain at all this season. I think he's kind of stupid and he should be more clear in the way he thinks
And
and
talk.
speak on that,
Yeah.
but I don't think he's malicious. I just think he don't know what he wants.
Yeah, he went on Jimmy Fallon and made fun of the fact that he has no concept of time. It seems like Jessica and Jimmy get along. I kind of felt weird chemistry between them.
Seems like they have chemistry, but they try to act like it's only friendship chemistry for the sake of Chelsea, even though Chelsea and Jimmy, I don't think are really dating. And I don't think Jessica would ever date Jimmy since girl seems to be the theme of the reunion. I do think
Mhm,
Jessica is a girl's girl out of everybody. And that's why she is the one who straight up removed Sarah Ann out of the group chat because Jessica is so much of a girl's girl. She's going to protect everyone else in the cast from this toxic slice of a
mhm.
pink human.
I just wish they would have got more into other things. I wish we would have got to talk more about Jimmy breaking up with Chelsea, how she felt.
I
So
wish
many
they would have asked him straight up, "Why couldn't you have made it to the altar?" Because that's the
Mhm,
way that Jimmy said it. "I can't go down the aisle. I can't go to the altar with you." Why?
mhm.
It was 3 more days at most. You were gonna go do 1 more cast party for your bachelor party, and then you were gonna walk down the aisle and just say the same thing, "I can't marry you." That's all. That's all you say, right then and there. I
Yeah,
know it would have been harder, and maybe him and Chelsea would not be getting along as well as they are now, but that's what the people wanted
that's what
to
we
see.
needed. That's what we were promised. So then they talk about Bliss and Zach's baby shower, which was really nice. And I got to see little snippets of that. And we talk about everybody who's pregnant. Obviously, Alexa and Brennan are pregnant. I already got to Giannina earlier. Then all of a sudden, Alexa says the word uncomfy, which made Chelsea kind of cringe.
I think Vanessa had just said to Alexa, "You're a pretty direct and blunt person. Is there anything you want to say to anybody?" She says, "No, I think I'll keep my mouth closed. I learned my lesson," and then calls out the word uncomfy. So it's like, okay, slight shade. I like it.
Slightly. It was
For a pregnant woman, she showed a lot of restraint. Did you also peep her slumped over like this the whole time?
the
She must
whole
have
time
been just in pain or not feeling good or just she was
uncomfy. She was totally uncomfy, and everyone around her is drinking, and then there's all that 3-hour-old food she's just staring at, probably wanting to eat, but she can't go up and get it. This woman's in her own personal hell probably right now. So
I bet.
we finally get to an uncomfy couple, which is Ken and Brittany. Brittany even says, "Oh, finally!" You know, they've been waiting there that whole time. They barely even had any commentary. They haven't said anything at all.
Ken
Kenneth
has not
hasn't said
said
a
a
word,
word.
not a word,
Yeah.
until this moment.
Brittany had a couple things to say about the Sarah situation and the Trevor situation, which was all on point. Like Brittany a lot and most of the things she says. But yeah, Ken had not said not
Nothing.
a second of a word.
He didn't even get in on that Brett and Clay stuff. He didn't get in on none of it. He was hoping that they would probably just gloss right over him, which they would have had they not spoke up and said, "Is it our turn?" Because they were sick of waiting. So we find out that they are friends and that they're like best of friends. And I don't know. I just wish they would have asked them about their breakup, about the gaslighting, about all these things. They did ask about the phone. Kenneth did have a good reason for the phone. It was the school. He's all up in the school, whatever. So I do think that they might have also shown him on his phone more than he also might have been, but he did realize he's on his phone a lot more than he thinks. And sometimes people need to see that because sometimes you don't realize that you are really using your devices and stuff as much as you actually are, and you're actually ignoring the people around you, which yes, you should always make time for all those things. And that's something he would have to do in a marriage. He can't just be all up in his school stuff 24/7 all the time. That is admirable, but you would have to make the time for your own kids. You wouldn't be able to be that hands-on all of the time.
And Ken did say he did use the principal excuse for quite a while, but he ended that statement with he recognized that he never found a middle ground because he said, "I love my job, but I also love my partner, my fiance, and I never
My
found
love.
the
I love
middle."
my
I didn't want to say love my love because I don't think he exactly used the word love, but whatever.
I think
So
he
yeah,
did.
oh well, geez.
I think he did say, "I
We'll
love
see.
my
We'll
love."
see. He tried to say he didn't really find a middle ground in that, and obviously that's very true. Nick also does ask Ken about how unfazed he seemed with the whole breakup and that some people would call it gaslighting, but Ken did just sort of breeze past that a little bit. He said that everyone processes their emotions differently. He said he did call Clay afterwards and that he was sad, and Clay gave a
Was
gentle
Clay the
nod.
guy on the phone though, where he was like, "I did it"?
No, he
It's like,
wasn't. It gave the dude's name, the
but
person's
that's
name, I think.
but that's what I'm saying. You might have called Clay, but this is not what you first did. You didn't first call Clay the
Mhm.
moment you left heartbroken. I don't know.
You're right.
Kenneth,
You're
I
right.
think you're doing a little bit of gaslighting to us, like
Again.
again. But
I know that Clay and Ken were pretty close. They seemed to be at least throughout the filming process.
Mhm.
And I peeped a little something when Brittany and Ken said that they talk every single day. They panned over to basically everyone's reactions, and everyone was all heartwarmed and smiling or whatever. But Clay tapped AD's thigh really quickly, and then he got all kind of and smiled. It made me feel like Clay made a bet on this man in this relationship between Brittany and Ken. Maybe Clay thinks they're trying to get back together or something because it just came across like, "Look, I told you, I told," like something like that. I don't know. It's kind of funny.
People are speculating that Ken could be playing for the other team and that he only
People
went
are.
on this show to prove something to his parents or whatever the
I
case
will
is.
say,
Alleged.
no, yes, totally alleged. But I mean, people are talking about it. I have no idea, so I'm not going to speak on it. But I will say, after reunion right now, the way that Brittany and Ken are talking to each other, about each other, looking at each other, they're still very comfortable and secure with each other, especially Brittany, who would have a reason to be upset with him. It's
Mhm.
giving me Leah from Teen Mom and her ex-fiance vibes, and we know what went on there. So I actually didn't think that those internet rumors were true until I saw this reunion and how comfy,
Mhm.
cozy, snuggly bestie they are. and it's just giving me Leah and what's his name? And what's his name came across as a gaslighter too, but I think only because he was hiding things and we could tell he was. So I
Well,
wonder
and if y'all
in the
are
in AD's words.
right. And I wish somebody would have asked them if they would ever date, because they just asked them if they are and they said no, but they didn't ask if they would. I'm kind of where you're at. I'm curious because it just seems a little bit off to me that they're just this close and I mean,
This
if you're
blessed
attracted
with
to each
happy.
other, why not
Yeah.
try it again if you're, but instead they're like besties, and they even talk about if they were to move on, they have a little bit of advice for each other.
Plan.
It's just, it's giving, I don't know. I have
It's
questions,
giving
but
me Leah Messer and her ex vibes. It just is to me.
and if y'all don't watch Teen Mom, what had happened between them is alleged that he broke up with her because he might be playing for the other team, and he made her sign an NDA to not talk about it. So we don't actually know the truth. It's just all alleged.
But this happened about, I don't know, maybe more than a year ago now. So there's been a couple more things that have came out that have helped us to confirm those situations, including Leah's own statements carefully walking around this NDA. So everyone's pretty sure what happened, but it has never been like this guy is this and so this happened and
Yeah. It's all alleged.
it's all alleged.
Yeah, it's all alleged. Apparently kind of does still like dolphins, and I mean that's pretty much all we really got from them. I didn't get anything else out of that. They
Nothing.
did bring up Matthew, but we talked about him earlier. He didn't show up. He went on with AD a couple times, but
Yeah, and
yeah,
they showed us those receipts from the conversations, and I do think it was interesting to hear AD's take on seeing both conversations. It's obvious that he was saying the same thing to both of them, but more so of how she felt that what she shared about her dad was kind of obsolete because he did the same thing
Mhm,
with the other Amber.
mhm.
So I felt for her about that, but again, the fact that she met with him on 2 dates, I'm over that now.
They pretty much are done with actual reunion. They gave us a couple of announcements that Chelsea and Kwame are now able to travel because she's going to be doing casting for Love is Blind. Micah and Izzy, we thought that they were going to be telling us that they're dating or something, or that they're having a baby. I don't even know. I did not
I was
understand
a
that.
little bit worried. I was on the edge of my seat for just a second.
I was like, she's too tall for him.
But yeah, they announced that they're gonna be on Perfect Match with Jessica, and there's rumors that Matthew might be on there. There's rumors that Trevor might be on there. Izzy gets a standing ovation because he tells us that he's fixed his credit. So
Yep, good for Iz.
good for you, Glenn Coco.
We were worried. His credit wasn't even that damn bad. He's like 3,000 or something in debt. Y'all need to chill.
It was like very basic level.
I'm sure most viewers are in more debt than Izzy. I think I'm in more debt than Izzy.
I think the issue with him was it wasn't just that it was $3,000, it was that it had gone into collections and stuff like
Bad
that.
credit.
It
Yeah.
wasn't just like a credit card bill.
But still, it's fixable. Come on, you guys.
Totally fixable and fixed. He gets his flowers for that, I guess. So, Vanessa asked Clay some weird shit about microwaving a Gatorade. I've never heard this. Did you see this? Because I don't watch as much TikTok and stuff.
It's apparently been like a meme or something. People thought he microwaved some Gatorade, but it turned out to actually be the normal food. It looked like
It was the
pasta.
noodles and sauce. It made a
That's what it looked like.
reappearance.
Mm-hmm. And maybe he heated it up for Jimmy and Jessica too, separately, because he plays pretty clean. He likes to stack some plates. He did have to clear up for us that he did not microwave any Gatorade. So I'm glad that we were able to help you guys with that. Clay's been pretty pressed about it too. He's posted about that as well, that he did not microwave any Gatorade. So
Really? This was the first I heard about it, so I was a little caught off guard, but thank you.
Yeah, he's posted it before too. So y'all got Clay pressed on this Gatorade. He had to make sure that it came up at the reunion right at the end.
They got that food on the table and
Yeah, that's it,
AD's
really.
serving hors d'oeuvres, everybody. I will say, with the exception of Laura and Jeremy, it looks like all the couples still have a lot of connection with each other. They still share a high regard for each other. All of them touched each other at some point, whether that just be in general support. I felt like the touching between Jimmy and Chelsea could have even been more than that. But even Kenneth and Brittany, she gave him, like, a little thumb rub while her hand was on. It's just they're all pretty touchy-feely. I don't know if they're quite friends with benefits or if they're just connected here. That's not for us to decide, I guess. But they all care for each other, and I think that that's a little bit different than what we've seen on past seasons. A lot of times, the people who aren't together after the show, you almost have to put them on separate sides of the
Oh,
seating
yeah.
arrangement. The people who were furthest apart was Clay and AD as far as people who broke up, again, with the exception of Jeramy and Laura. But Clay and AD even touched each other a couple of times, said kind things to each other. So I thought that was kind of nice.
One last thing I do want to say about this whole reunion, and then we're done, is when Trevor was walking out, I do think he should have stopped at that table and grabbed himself a plate before he left. I think that he was entitled to that plate of food after what he went through, and he would have got it a lot fresher than everyone else.
I agree. You are completely right. Thank you for adding that.
You're welcome.
Somebody tell Trevor he fucked up.
Someone get Trevor a plate of food, and I hope somebody did. I hope somebody got that man a plate of food for.
You're right. I'm mad at him. I think he got what he deserved in this reunion, but he did not get that plate of food that he deserved. You're right.
And he's a big dude. He needs that plate of food. I'm sure he would have ate all that protein.
Ate half that table. I know they wasted half that food. If it sat out there, nobody ate that.
Yeah, he could have gave it to Trevor.
Have you ever seen a cheese and meat board after 3 hours? Like, it's disgusting.
I would have lost my mind, though, if when Trevor asked to leave and they finally did let him leave, if he just pulled up a chair and just sat at the table and just ate. I would have lost my mind.
You know Jimmy was running over there looking for some taquitos.
Jimmy, there's taquitos over here. You'd hear that at random. I think that would have been the best part of the whole thing. So, Trevor, you really missed one on that one. I'm most mad at you about that.
Open the doors back up, let Trevor come out, okay, Trevor, you can come back and have a snack.
Because what you did was messed up. All those other couples had tables and no food, just drinks. And I'm like, you guys could be feeding these people with this buffet of food, but now everybody's got to sit here and wait and get
and just stare at it, especially the pregnant people. They had, Giannina right front and center. They had Alexa.
Man. They could probably smell it, making them uncomfy.
So uncomfy. The uncomfy meat smells.
Thank you for joining us, Chick Chatters, and thank you for the subscribers as well, because we have hit our goal. So what do you want our new goal to be? Might as well set it here.
It's got to be above 300.
I'd say,
if not 300.
We should just do 300, make it solid. We got 40 something to go, so 300.
True, we don't have a whole lot going on right now as far as shows that we are about to cover. I do think it's a good idea to try to hit 300. So if you've been watching us, please subscribe. We probably will cover Perfect Match, right?
Yeah. We'll also cover, if there is this other season of Love is Blind with the cast, we will cover that one too, that weird season that they were teasing, but I don't know anything else about. Stay tuned, and we will catch you on the next one. Chick Chatters.
Bye.
Bye.